It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of Bank Information. Take charge of your financial future with Your Personal Bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. Well, we're going to have some fun today. I want to say this much. When I first started doing the show, of course, it was prior to COVID, about a year prior, actually. And I've said this several times. I was just, it was going to be a financial show, and I was just doing 1 hour a week. And I was really concerned initially. I was hesitant to do the show initially because I was like, well, how many times, how many ways can I explain this? Am I going to run out of stuff to say, right? Well, of course, COVID came about, and those longtime listeners know I got pretty fired up when the government started shutting down small businesses because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner, and that just hit home. And suddenly I had a whole lot of stuff to talk about. And it's just been like a cascade of things, one after another after another, sometimes almost even exhausting. And it's there's so much to talk about and discuss that I can't get to it all. It's just impossible. And again, I really appreciate the folks that have reached out to me. Again, you can reach me at Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. That's my email. It's FERENC as in cat, no E. So it's Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. And, comment on the show, or if you'd like me to discuss something, I'd be happy to do so. But a lot of times folks are, why don't you talk about this or talk about that? And oftentimes I say, I'd love to. It's just, I only have so much time. But I'm going to cover a few things that I think are going to be really hit home, heartfelt, and some really encouraging news. So, one thing I've got to touch on, I talked about this in the last show. So if you did miss it, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to this or any of the previously recorded shows anytime you want to. Each of them have a topic on what I discussed. So you pick and choose the ones you're interested in. But I did discuss the yield curve inversion, which is, if you don't know what that is, go to the show and I explain it. But the key point about that is, of course, according to a report done by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, it's pointed out that since 1955, every time the yield curve is inverted, that's when the short-term yield, bond yields, the interest they pay is higher than the longer terms. Every single time except once since 1955, it's predicted a recession. And the recessions started on about 6 to 24 months after the yield curve inversion. Okay? So it's considered one of the most accurate economic predictors of recession. And look, it doesn't take rocket science for anybody to see that most likely we're headed to recession anyway. Because we've got a situation here where we've got high inflation that's still increasing. And that's going to be a real drag on the economy, especially as we go forward. And high energy prices, which are also contributing to the inflation. And as the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco recently, another article they just put out recently, stating that about half the inflation we're dealing with right now is because of the excessive government spending. You can't dump that kind of money into the system and not expect it to have negative impacts, particularly high inflation. But what I want to point out to a few things is there's some cause for encouragement. And what I mean by that is because things have gone, there's no argument from anyone that there's been a tremendous change in direction of our current political situation, our current administration, whether it's energy policy or the border or international policy, or you pick, tax policy, spending, you name it, anything. There has been a significant and dramatic change in direction. And the polls overwhelmingly show that the vast majority of Americans, about 2/3, are not happy with those changes, not what they want. And what's ironic, or I don't know, what's different this time, I guess, is the current administration, the bureaucrats and stuff like that, are so committed to their policies, what they're doing, they're just not, they're digging their heels in. They're not changing direction. In fact, they're doubling down. I think it's a combination of things that they're just true believers, so to speak. They believe the propaganda they've grown up with their whole lives, probably. And they believe it so much they don't care what anyone thinks, or they're so egotistical or that they think they're better, they know better than the rest of us, or could be they're just such in a bubble, they just are that clueless. Some of them, I'm sure, see major advantages or making big money or have a lot of power, or they gain more by, creating chaos. So a lot of this is intentional. I firmly believe that. But because of the rapid directional change, and there's really cause for encouragement because, again, human beings are creatures of habit. We comfort zones, right? And we don't like dramatic change like this, especially when it's negative. Or impacts us negatively, right? Like in our pocketbook when we go to the grocery store or try to fill up our gas tank. So I've had a lot of folks talk to me and asking me these questions because, I have clients literally all over the entire country. And every political view under the sun, okay? Not everybody agrees with my political positions, but I guess where I'm different than many is, again, it's about being transparent about who I am. I don't apologize for who I am. I don't try to shove it down somebody's throat, so to speak. If we don't agree, I'll discuss it with them. I'll be professional. I'll be respectful, but I'm firm in my beliefs, and I can explain. I can articulate why. And so people, they respect that for the most part. I guess there's some out there that don't talk to me, and that's fine with me too. But again, the cause for encouragement is this. Perfect example is, here's an example. There's a Pennsylvania judge recently that booted 5 Democrats from the school board over mask mandates. And the order was a result of a parent-filed petition. It's actually in the Westchester area school district in Pennsylvania. Now, what's ironic, or this is what's really frustrating, but also positive, it boots 5 Democrats from the school board. Now, I have a simple question. Again, trying to think in a common sense manner. Why are there Democrats, or Republicans for that matter, on school boards? Isn't a school board supposed to be there for the kids, for the education of the kids? Is a school board supposed to be a political thing? I don't think so. And the fact is that there are people who, again, are trying to do their best to change or indoctrinate our kids, like we're seeing in Florida. This whole bill about, I'm so glad they did it. It's really opened up a whole can of worms that the left has decided they want to fight against a law that Florida put into place. This should be across the country, frankly, that teachers and schools or no adult can educate on sexual content to anyone in kindergarten through 3rd grade. I mean, I would have put it much higher than that, frankly. But that's like overwhelming majority of people, Americans of all stripes, all political stripes, agree you shouldn't be bringing up sexual content to kids that are 5, 6, 7 years old. That's just beyond ridiculous. But that's what the left, it's the Marxist, far left, whatever you want to call them, that's what they want. They want to indoctrinate young children into their way of thinking so that I guess they feel like in the future they'll, in essence, believe in their beliefs and vote for them, right? They're grooming politically future voters. And frankly, that's just sick. And they have this attitude that it takes a village to raise a kid. We've heard that for decades, right? Heard that from Hillary. No, it doesn't. It takes a family, a mom and a dad, ideally, to raise kids. That's the ideal situation. And frankly, if we don't have a whole lot of extended family, and the few extended family in many cases are not necessarily positive role models. I'll put it that way. Not something that would be beneficial to my kids. And, our girls are growing up just fine, and they've said the same thing. They have a good mom and dad situation. We love them. We take care of them. We raise them. And, it's the parent's responsibility. And like I said, I said this in the beginning, I think this is where the left has messed up. They've underestimated the passion parents have for their kids. I mean, and I think maybe a lot of it is because many of them don't have kids, so they just don't understand it. When you as a parent, you know what I mean. It's a life-changing experience having children, because a lot of what you do throughout the rest of your life is for your family, for your kids, right? I work hard because of my wife and kids, right? Just like most people do. And if you're going to come in between me and my girls, we got a problem. And I'm just going to step back. I'm not going to step down. It doesn't matter how much you threaten me with whatever. Call me a domestic terrorist. I don't care. You're messing with my kids, right? And I think that's where they messed up in a big way. But like I said, I hope this is a model that gets passed on. First of all, we don't need Democrats or Republicans on school boards. We need parents on school boards. Parents need to be in charge of the schools and what they're being taught by the schools to their kids. And basically, it seems like more and more, many of these schools are teaching everything but what's beneficial for what we learned as adults when we were growing up. Education, like reading, writing, arithmetic. Okay, the stuff that we need to be functional in this world. And in that same vein, get another example. I mean, this whole thing with Disney coming out against that with that same legislation where it's called the Parental Rights and Education Bill. They came out against it, and it's nothing more than stating that teachers and adults working with schools, third parties, whatever, cannot discuss sexual content with anyone K through third grade. That is not the kind of stuff that the vast, vast majority of parents want. I mean, I saw this one article. It was really true. It's like, Walt Disney Disney Corp coming up against it. Walt Disney would be rolling over in his grave. And it's kind of personal because a lot of us as adults, we grew up with Disney. We love Disney stuff. Okay, I remember watching the Disney every Sunday night, on TV. It was one of the only things to watch, right? Well, stay tuned in the next segment. We're going to talk about some more of these things and reason to be encouraged. But if you want to contact me, toll free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. I'll share with you how to take control of your money, gain positive arbitrage, offset inflation. Get through this ride we're going through. So stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. We've been discussing today all the different things that are happening rapidly. It's like rapid fire, like a machine gun. All these changes that our current administration have been trying to, shove down our throats, right? And as they continue to do these things, there's reason for encouragement. And I'm saying this because I do run into a lot of people. I have clients literally all over the country. And there's a lot of folks that are just frustrated. They're down. This didn't have to happen. This was self-imposed. It's like shooting yourself in the foot, right? Our current administration refuses to do the things to cause, for example, energy prices to go down, which would help inflation probably more than anything, okay? But, I've even heard some things, is our country going to survive 3 more years of this? And my answer to that is I feel very confident the country will survive. It's survived worse than this. I mean, World War II was significant. The Great Depression, obviously, was very significant. The Civil War, probably the most significant challenge to the existence of this country in its history, right? My point is, it's not going to be fun to go through high inflationary situation probably for the next 3 or 4 years, again, unless the current administration decides to make significant changes, or OPEC or something like that decides to drill add supply. So we got to buckle our seatbelts, as I've been saying, and get ready for this ride because we're going. It isn't a surprise, okay, to those of us that have been paying attention. In fact, I was looking at it last week. I started talking about inflation in May of 2021. And if you remember, that's when Jerome Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, was going around everybody saying, it's just transitory. It's just transitory. And I was saying, no, inflation is one of those things that takes a long, once the genie's out of the bottle, it takes a while to come out, and there's too many problems. In fact, I'll go back further than that. When the first day in office, when Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline, he did a bunch of other things that first day, but I knew immediately, and I started saying that to clients and people I knew and friends and family, we're in for inflation and probably a recession in the next year or so, because I knew what the signal that meant. I knew it didn't have to, it wasn't all about the Keystone Pipeline in and of itself. It was about the signal that the administration was sending to the oil industry and the gas industry and the natural gas, all that, the energy industry. And I knew if you increase you reduce supply, you're going to increase energy prices. And when you increase energy prices, you're going to cause the price of everything to go up. Everything, which means inflation. And when you have high inflation, you often end up with recession. Okay? I knew that then. In fact, I went to work the next day. I started working harder because I recognized at that point, I knew I was going to have to go start making more money. Okay? And thankfully, I'm in a position in a business, if I work harder, I'm allowed, I can do that. Not everybody has that luxury. But I own a business. I'm my own person. I'm an entrepreneur. And if I'm willing to put more effort in, I know I do. I go make more. So I knew, because I knew the value of our dollar was going down, so we're going to need more of it just to maintain. And, of course, we've seen an 8% roughly increase in the consumer price index, which means the cost of everything's increased about 8% over the past year. And it doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon, right? In fact, probably going to get worse before it gets better. But again, try not to be too negative here. There's a reason for the reason for pause, because I heard somebody say this a while back, and I thought it was, when earlier on when this stuff was happening, I was getting really super frustrated. And they said, as bad as all this is, and probably going to get worse before it gets better, which I think that's very accurate, is, in a way, it's probably a blessing in disguise. In other words, there's been a group of people out there, and we'll call them far-left Marxists, who many of them have gotten into positions of power, certainly in education, entertainment, government, and now corporate America, and even the military. Very quietly, very secretively, got themselves into positions of power and were subverting the power of this country from within. And if you told me that 3 years ago, I would have told you, you're a conspiracy theorist. I would have thought you were a little bit crazy. And like most people, I think I would have I would have dismissed it. But things have happened so dramatically and now out in the open, like things like Disney coming out in favor, fighting a parental rights education bill, a bill that basically prohibits classroom discussion or instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity for kids that are in kindergarten through third grade. And Disney is fighting it tooth and nail, and they're saying they're going to do what they can to get this law overturned, even though it's favored by the vast majority of Floridians from almost all political spectrum. The parents want this, like this. They don't want schools to indoctrinate or teach their kids about sex, especially kindergartners, third graders. Are you kidding me? I sure would. I know I would be dead set against that if they were going to try to do that with my girls. Okay? So my point is, they're dying on this hill, though. This is what the left wants to, yes, we should be allowed to indoctrinate and talk about sex and all that stuff to little kids. Look, if you did that anywhere else, if you went to a park and there were some kids playing and somebody came up, started talking to you saw somebody talking to kids about sex, you'd call the cops. That would be called a predator. right? Somebody grooming or a groomer, right? It's illegal. Yet they're doing it in schools, and they're fighting it. And Disney, of all places, is coming out against it. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. It's mind-boggling. Disney is supposed to be a place where it's wholesome entertainment for kids, right? And adults to a degree, but those of us that are adults grew up around it with Disney stuff. We loved it, It's just so frustrating. It's so sad that so many of those things have happened. Or happening, I should say. And so what I'm getting at is there's more and more of this stuff that's just coming out. Like another one, Americans should be outraged after states pocketed COVID relief money. We got high inflation partly, according to the San Francisco Federal Reserve Bank. About half of our inflation is from excessive government spending. A lot of these states took hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars from the American Rescue Plan and spent it on frivolous projects. I mean, crazy things. There's luxury hotels that were built on ski slopes. There were you think about it, the stuff, New York, the Yankees minor league team stadium. They put money into upgrading that. I mean, that's what COVID money was supposed to go for. Massachusetts, they paid off debts to the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the U.S. Senate. I mean, other pet projects, all kinds of stuff. Iowa bought a privately owned ski area, okay? Colorado Springs bought golf course or fixed 2 irrigation systems in their golf courses, okay? Tourism campaigns. I mean, stuff that had nothing to do with COVID. Just a waste of money, which is causing inflation. If you want to know how to offset that, stay tuned in the next segment. I'm going to talk about a few more things and causes to be encouraged. But contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. Like I said earlier, if you missed, we've been discussing all the number of things that have been going on recently and actually reasons to be encouraged about the future. As bad as things are, this is what I guess the message I'm really trying to share with people is, as frustrating as it is, as bad as things are, the government has been spending too much. They've been getting in the way of energy prices, which have gone through the roof, all-time highs. We're dealing with record inflation. We're leading probably into a recession. The yield curve inversion is just another indicator of that, okay? So it's increasingly likely that we're going to go into recession. And all these things are self-imposed. The border, having the open border, but we're going to help. We're trying to help Ukraine protect their borders. We're dealing with a war. Afghanistan, that was a debacle. Okay, you name it. And again, as I've stated, my opinion has become firmer and firmer that all of these things were intentional. Again, it's a group of people sitting around, hey, I've got an idea, something else we can do that'd be bad for America or the American people, and create more chaos so that more people are reliant on the government and they'll vote for us. That's what I think's going on. I really do. It's intentional. Again, if they were out of touch or just foolish or clueless or whatever, again, you would accidentally do something right. But I genuinely cannot think of one thing that our government, our federal government administration, current administration has done that's been beneficial to the average American. I just can't think of one. And look, if you want to let me, you want to contact me you can email me at Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. It's FERENC as in cat, no E. Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. I have a number of people that do that and share with ideas and feedback and ideas for the show. I appreciate it. But if you can think of something they've done positive, I'm open to it. I just can't think of one, okay? But these things are happening so fast and furious, like I said earlier, that people are waking up. And whether it's, like I said earlier, the border or the international policy, or it's inflation, or it's energy prices, or it's, the attack on parents and schools, wanting to indoctrinate kids, or even like Disney, going after parents. That's and you know what's so maddening about that is here you have a major corporation designed to create entertainment for children, right? And their customers are the children, and the parents that pay for that. The parents are the customers, right? And they're attacking the parents who want the parental rights education bill. They're wanting, in Florida, for example, which prohibits classroom discussion or instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity to third graders and kindergartners, from kindergartners to third graders. We're talking about 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds. No teacher, no adult outside of a parent, okay, or a guardian has the right to discuss those things with small children. And I can tell you, as a parent, you generally don't talk about much of that when they're young because those things don't come up. They don't care. They're focused on toys and going out and playing and, you know, those kinds of things, or video games or whatever. That's what the kids are into. They're not into sex and sexual orientation. That's all those are adults, I should say, not parents. Those are adults shoving that agenda down their throat. And frankly, it's nothing more than grooming, folks. It's a political grooming, but, you know, that's illegal. And again, I said this earlier in the last segment. If you saw somebody doing that at the park to a small child, you call the cops, man. I know I would. Okay? That's a sexual predator. I'm sorry. There's just no two ways about it. Okay? So, you know, we talk about all these different things, but again, for each person, it's something different. I've shared this many times. For me, it was when the government started shutting down businesses for COVID. I, as a small business, an entrepreneur, I've owned a retail business, I've owned a real estate investment business, in the process of, you know, own the financial agency. I've been an entrepreneur for nearly 30 years, okay, and I'm more in the process of opening a bank, FDIC insured bank here in Scottsdale, or Chandler, actually, we're looking at. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. That's who I am. So that hit home for me. Whatever it is, they are attacking on so many fronts things that the vast majority are dead set against or negative to. They're just alienating everyone, okay? So I guess they're just going, you know, hell for leather, right? As much as they can. Hell-bent, I should say, maybe is a better word, to get everything they can before they're going to get thrown out. And that's what's going to happen. I think everyone knows that, okay? So, again, if you want to take control of your money, offset inflation, take control of your economic future, I'm going to encourage you to contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. Again, it's 866-268-4422. Yes, you will get to talk to me. I encourage you to stay tuned in the next segment. We'll finish up with a few other thoughts I think you're going to like.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. If you missed the earlier segments, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to this or any of the previously recorded shows. There's topics on each one. Pick out which ones you like. Pass them on. It's just a great resource. There's over 2 years of shows there posted, so you can listen to a lot of stuff and how your personal bank works, how to take control of your money, reduce your taxes, gain positive arbitrage, get your money to work further for you. And again, with higher inflation, as we're leading into that, which we clearly are, that's going to become more and more important. Today, we've really been discussing a number of the changes in direction that our current administration has been doing rapid fire, again, like a machine gun. And it's happening so fast, it's getting more and more and more people's attention. And for the most part, they just don't like it because they don't like, well, who likes paying more for gas? Or who likes paying more for food, right? Just about nobody, right? And so you start looking at it and asking questions and saying, you know, thinking about why are these things happening? And you realize that, you know, it doesn't take rocket science. It's not that complicated, that high energy prices contributes more to inflation than anything else. And when you have an administration that is discouraging energy production in this country by shutting down pipelines, not allowing any drilling on federal lands, no leases, which just reduces supply, which increases price. It's basic supply and demand. That's like economics 101. That's the stuff we learn in third grade, or used to. They're now trying to teach all kinds of other stuff that's not appropriate in many cases, which is why Florida passed that law, and I'm so glad they did. Frankly, that should be passed in every state, every state in the union. It won't be in the blue states. We know that. But frankly, every state that has a reasonable or common sense governor or leadership, that, allowing, and I'm a parent, so this is important to me, allowing teachers or schools to teach sexual content to kindergartner through third graders, that is like, if there was a topic that would be almost universal agreement, I almost can't think of another topic that you would have a higher percentage of people that would agree. And I'm talking about all types of experiences, backgrounds, political views, all of it. And, the Democrats, the liberals, not the liberals really, it's the far left, are up in arms fighting it tooth and nail, and even places like Disney are fighting it. And that's just absolutely crazy. You're going against like 80% probably or more easily of your customer base, parents. Disney is they're going to live to regret this. I believe. I firmly believe that. So those are the kinds of things to, I guess, be encouraged by, because again, all it does. And I stated this a few months ago when I was talking to one of my family members when I was in California. We went there for Christmas, and I was talking to one of my family members where she was, very liberal California, typical liberal Californian, and we had about a 3-hour discussion about politics, and it was respectful. We disagreed on a lot of things, but it was really eye-opening for her. She was clearly, as I stated to her, from many of the things she was saying, I said, man, you've been living in a bubble. You need to open your horizons and realize there's more going on around this country and world than what you're getting fed. Okay, it's a lot of, well, frankly, it was nothing more than propaganda. The thing that's encouraging is people even like her waking up, because, as she put it, for her it was the vaccines. She got them, she had the boosters, she did all that stuff. But when they started pushing it on her kids, that was the line that she couldn't cross, because, as mom and dad, you don't just allow you don't allow people just to stick a needle in your kid's arms, especially if it's untested, new type of vaccine, right? Okay. But even things, and I haven't talked about this at all in this show, but I will today, because the Hunter Biden laptop, even the Washington Post now has come out in a lengthy report and stated that, it's real, even though in 2020, before the election, they were part of the legacy media that downplayed this and disparaged it and everything else that they did, because they were in the tank for the Democrat, right? I mean, they were openly. So my point is, you're getting even very liberal, the Times, the Post, these various things are authenticating or are admitting that these things are real, okay? And again, just like with Disney, it's going to come back to bite them, okay? So the thing is, you've got to, the truth shall set you free, right? When you build a web of lies and deceit, and I'm going to say a little bit more about this, because what's happening, we're going to see more and more I think more and more stuff's going to be coming out, but it's no secret that Ukraine was a place that had a lot of corruption. Okay, it was famous for corruption. Okay, but interestingly, in a way, with Putin invading and starting a war there, it's, no pun intended, kind of blown all that up, if you know what I'm saying. In other words, there were a lot of people, a lot of political and bureaucratic leaders with contacts, okay, stuff like that, that had, well, through corruption, connections and stuff were making a lot of money. Okay, so there was a lot of corruption going on. I mean, Ukraine was famous for it. And a lot of people here in America, a lot of our leaders were, and this is coming out more and more and more, were involved with this type of stuff and making millions of dollars, literally, sometimes more than that. That's why Ukraine, and it's kind of funny because the attacks on, they were attacking Trump for, talking to President Zelensky, and the Russian hoax is what it's come to be. Even the liberal media has admitted to that now, that it was all fake. All this stuff's coming out. The truth is coming out, is what I'm trying to say. And those that are willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to be coachable. I used to always say, give me somebody who's coachable and give me somebody that's going to go somewhere in this world. If you're just going to put horse blinders on and not pay attention to the truth, you're going to be taken advantage of, okay? You need to wake up, smell the coffee, think, use a little discernment, use some healthy skepticism, and learn and realize why is somebody telling you what they're telling you, so that you can educate yourself and be more be a more intelligent person, voter, citizen, person, all of those things, right? And I guess the last thing I want to share thought here is, even recently, Biden himself warns of a real food shortage following sanctions on Russia. I think this is genuinely true. I think this is real, because you take, for example, wheat. Wheat's a great example. It's made a lot, of course, breads, obviously. Many foods are made from wheat. And Russia and Ukraine both are two of the top 5 producers of wheat in the world. I think Ukraine's number 5. And we're like number 1 or 2. I think Russia's actually number 1. Anyway, my point is if you take out one of the top 5, so in other words, if the war keeps going and Ukraine does miss their spring planting season for wheat, that will create shortages and price hikes even further than what we're seeing now across the world. And not that, we don't. The U.S. doesn't really purchase wheat from Ukraine or Russia, for that matter. The thing is, though, is again, just like with oil and energy, the U.S. is the number 1 producer of energy when we want to be. And when you take one of the biggest producers off the market, these are world markets, folks. These things are, these commodities and things like that, the prices of these things are affected across the world. So if there's a reduction of supply of wheat, for example, prices of wheat across the world will go up. The cost of bread and anything else that wheat is made of, and that's a lot of food, okay, it's going to cost us more. Sadly, like Biden himself even said, there's going to be third world countries in particular where there'll be real food shortages. Folks, we're talking about hunger here, okay? We're talking about serious societal upheaval, really, in some places, okay? And one, it's a humanitarian crisis. It's terrible, okay, for one. But 2, it's going to cause a lot of ripple effects. And a lot of people have asked me also, what do you think about precious metals, for example? Or, going into an economic crisis, we're going in, clearly more and more likely, we'll put it that way. My response is, you go back in history and you look at places where there was real economic crisis, whether it's Argentina in the 80s, Wehrmacht Germany between World War I and World War II, or other places where the value of the money, I should say, was reduced significantly. And we're seeing through inflation, we're starting to see significant reduction of our dollar. The petrodollar is being threatened. All kinds of things are going on. Maybe I'll talk about that further in the next show, or next show or two. But there's certainly risk involved. There's certainly more than that. And what I would say is, again, interest rate sensitive assets like your personal bank. I keep going to that. But I would say consider, if we had if you're talking about true chaos, okay? Well, what's going to be valuable at that point? And the reality is, at that point, the things that are going to be valuable will be food, water, medicine, and bullets to protect the food, water, and medicine, right? So my suggestion is you might, just like some people diversify into precious metals as a hedge, maybe a portion of that, instead of being precious metals as a hedge, maybe you should consider stocking up on food. That's always wise. And water. We've got a water system that can make, like they use in India, that can create water. I mean, from any source. I mean, from a pool or a pond or anything, you can create filtered water, gravity fed. You don't need we have a generator, okay? Solar power generator. That's where I think solar power is cool. Don't need electricity or fuel, right? And, I pick up, when I have some extra money to invest, a small portion of that, I usually pick up an extra weapon or ammunition. Because here's what I know. One, I don't want to ever have to use it. I was in the military. I know how to use it. That's not the problem. But in case, I've got what I need to protect my family and what we need. But secondly, if we have extra, say an extra weapon or ammunition, and we need something, we need some food or water or medicine. I mean, say somebody got sick and we needed to see the doctor, and you're talking about real chaos, okay? Like we're seeing in Ukraine right now. Now, I don't know that we'll see that here. I sincerely hope we don't. But if that did indeed happen, or natural disaster, we've seen like with Katrina, it's not the government. The government's not going to be there to save you, okay? They learned that in Katrina, right? You have to be able to take care of yourself and those you love. And having extra, even if you don't plan to use it, could you trade some bullets or a weapon for medicine, for example, or something you needed in a time of true crisis? And the answer I say is yes. Now, does someone need to go overboard and put everything into it? I don't think so. Just like I see people who will, I was going to put $100,000 that's a significant portion of their assets into, say, precious metals. I'm not saying you shouldn't do precious metals. I'm just saying don't overdo it. So like I said, for more information or more thoughts or ideas, contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com, and we'll discuss how we can weather this high inflation environment and get through, coming through on the other side, better off financially than when you went in. Again, 866-268-4422.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and writers may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.